All right. Let's get it on. All right. All right.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego lifting. We do so because the chains of oppression on people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to WHGE 95.3 FM. You have tuned in on time for The Open Eye. I'm your host and third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, ready to get them started, ready to get something going. First thing I want to do, well, what's up, Brother Vaughn? I see you, brother. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to the Black Awareness Movement for having me as a guest speaker on their group Zoom. Really enjoyed myself. Appreciate that. Jardea, Tracy, and all the others that were so welcoming to me. Let me get this right out the way now before I get them started. My disclaimer, okay.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors.
Oh, what's going on?
And do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM or our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided
Hey, Sherry, I see you.
guests or contributors are theirs and are
All
not
right,
intended
good
to
morning.
align any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
And 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Yes, be waiting for my partner Nsoromma. He'll be here shortly. And as usual, I like to start off with a little history. All right. One of the things that comes up in some of my discussions is the Civil War and what have you. You know, it's something that conservatives sometimes accuse the academic left of ignoring the good in U.S. history and emphasizing the horrors. But in some respects, the typical telling of the American story does not focus enough on the horrors. Okay, U.S. history text dealt with the run-up to Civil War, then the war itself, then the failure of Reconstruction, before moving on to the Gilded Age and progressive reform. But the failure of Reconstruction was not just an embodied fact, but also a planned and ruthless act of sabotage. As Henry Louis Gates' book, The Stony Road, or Stony the Road, Reconstruction, White Supremacy, and the Rise of Jim Crow, effectively reminds us the period of history following the Civil War involved a violent campaign to reverse the social, political, and economic outcomes of the conflict. And this effort, which Southerners called redemption, was successful in almost every respect. See, the Confederacy lost the war, but they won the peace. With the defeat of the Confederacy, the federal government's enforcement of civil and voting rights was beginning to work a revolution. Hundreds of thousands of African-American citizens registered to vote and eventually elected an estimated 2,000 Black officials at every level of government. The Freedmen's Bureau helped former slaves in matters ranging from land rights to education. Families divided by slavery were reunited. Workers transitioned into a wage system. The process was difficult but hopeful. The white South, however, was having none of it. A broad counterattack was mounted to undo the work of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. This involved a campaign of murder and intimidation to disenfranchise Black Republicans and the imposition of economic systems, sharecropping, and convict labor that effectively recreated the conditions of slavery. By 1875, just a decade after the war ended, white rule was reestablished in all but 3 southern states. At first, Republicans such as President Ulysses S. Grant tried to help Southern Blacks through armed interventions by federal troops. But this policy proved politically unpopular and was abandoned. Now, the reimposition of white rule was a bloody, unpunished historical crime. The depth of the reaction against the demands that the Negro have the right to vote, Gates argues, and the sheer range of racist vehemence and terrorism that rose to neutralize that is stunning to contemplate. Between 1868 and 1871, an estimated 400 African Americans, 400, 3 years, were lynched across the South. About 30 were executed on a single day in Meriden, Mississippi. The killers, often roving bands of Confederate soldiers, acted with total impunity. By 1890, Ben Tillman, who had served as governor of South Carolina, was crowing the triumph of democracy and white supremacy over mongralism and anarchy is most complete. Those interested in this period will find Eric Foner's Reconstruction, America's Unfinished Revolution, more thorough, and Nicholas Lehman's Redemption, The Last Battle of the Civil War, more emotionally engaging. But Gates' valuable book goes further. He recounts the massive, seemingly coordinated betrayal of Black citizens following redemption by every white institution. How the Supreme Court gutted civil rights protections, how the scientific community justified white supremacy with bogus research, how white churches ignored or blessed oppression, how the world of advertising adopted demeaning Black stereotypes to sell soap and cereal, how the world of movies and literature popularized the myth of the lost cause, in which Reconstruction was a period of carpetbagger oppression, and Black people really longed for security of the plantation. Gates is especially insightful in revealing how Black people, after their constitutional rights were stolen, attempted to reassert their dignity in non-political ways, through Booker T. Washington's version of self-help, or by cultivating the achievements of W.E.B. Du Bois, Talented 10, or through the artistic excellence of the Harlem Renaissance, excuse me, or through Pan-African pride. Ultimately, Gates argues that Frederick Douglass got closest to the truth, that there is no path to pride and equality that does not include political power, particularly voting rights. This was the main theme of the NAACP and eventually of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is a tribute to the importance of justice as the first human need. The denial of justice recounted by Stoney the Road was every bit as bad as apartheid. It was not just racism, but also the systemic attempt to destroy through violence, threats, and mockery the dignity, political rights, and social standing of Blacks in America. It was far worse than anything that was taught in history classes. Yet, only by knowing this period can we understand how white supremacy became the broadly accepted, sadly durable ideology of white America. This is The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. All right. Take a little musical break. Nsoromma just arrived, and we're going to get ready to get it in. All right. All right, peace, joy, day. I'll see you there, brother. All right. me? All right. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Yaga! Wagwa!
Yo, you know what it is.
WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Hope you enjoyed that little history lesson. Joining me on the air now is my partner in consciousness, Nsoromma. Chop, chop.
Chop, chop, chop,
All right, brother.
Wagwan world.
All right. How you doing, brother?
Cooling, bro.
I
Cooling.
heard that.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, we got a lot to cover.
Hey,
We got
yo.
a lot to cover
All
here
right,
today.
that's what's up.
Yeah, first thing I want to get to
What?
is the good old days.
The good old days?
Yeah, the good old days.
Lord.
You know, a while back when it was on another radio station.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was my old buddy Al Machete. Yeah, he's one time he had the #1 show on talk radio here in Wilmington.
Okay.
Mhm. And I listened to a call on talk. As I listened to this call on talk radio, the callers, two elderly white women.
Ugly white women?
Elderly.
Oh, elderly. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't see them. They was on the radio.
Oh, okay.
They might be good looking.
All right.
But they were waxing nostalgic about America's good old days.
Okay.
The days when they could go to sleep at night and not lock their door. The days when they could leave their house at night and not worry about getting robbed or worse. It was a simpler time in America when people knew their place. When people knew what people knew their place. Right? That's what perked up my ears.
When people know their place.
Yeah. As I listened to the radio, I remembered the time I asked my grandmother about the good old days. My grandmother said, "When were these good old days you speak of, son?" And she asked that with a chuckle. "You mean the days when my father was run out of business because a white company came to town offering the same service so he could no longer apply his trade? You mean those days? Do you mean the days when I was harassed and threatened for organizing black domestic workers to pursue better working conditions and fairer pay? Or do you mean the days when one of the most dangerous risks black people could take was to travel outside of their community? Traveling while black. In the 20th century, during the dark days of segregation, traveling for black people could be a dangerous endeavor indeed.
Matter of fact, they made a book for that, right? The Green Book.
That's what I'm coming around to.
Oh, okay.
Black people had to be very careful whether traveling across town or across country. One had to plan meticulously. Black people had to be aware what areas to avoid, where it was safe to stop for food or lodging, how to comport oneself accordingly depending on one's location. Travel guides, described by former NAACP President Julian Bond as one of the survival tools of segregated life, the Negro Motorist Green Book.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. At times.
I got that book.
I heard that and need it now. You know, at times titled the Negro Traveler's Green Book or the Negro Motorist Green Book, and commonly referred to simply as the Green Book. It was an annual segregation-era guidebook for African-American motorists published by New York travel agent and former Hackensack, New Jersey letter carrier Victor H. Green. It was published in the United States from 1936 to 1966 during the Jim Crow era, when discrimination against non-whites was widespread. Road trips for African Americans were fraught with inconveniences and dangers because of racial segregation, racial profiling by police, which is still going on
Today.
Mm-hmm. The phenomenon of travelers just disappearing, that's still happening.
Today.
And the existence of numerous sundown towns, they're still there.
Today.
According to Arthur K. Kelly, there were at least 10,000 sundown towns in the United States as late as the 1960s.
Wow. 10,000.
10,000.
Wow.
I don't know how many there are now, but there's enough. that you need to watch yourself, and we need to start publishing the Green Book again. Now, sundown town, non-whites had to leave the city limits by dusk, or they could be picked up by police or worse. These towns were not limited to the South, okay? This is what a lot of people thought. Levittown, New York, the Glendale, California, and included the majority of municipalities in Illinois.
And the police was enforcing these cities.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's where the problem lies.
Mm-hmm.
How is the police backing these racist killers?
Because they're the same damn people.
I mean, but it's supposed to be justice, equality. Help me understand.
Right
so
here
why are we calling on them if they ain't doing that?
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Right here in post-racial America.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Uh-huh. The NAACP just recently issued a warning to prospective African American travelers to Missouri. That's in the north, suggesting that if they must go to Missouri, they travel with bail money in hand.
What kind of saying is that, man?
Yeah.
And the police is enforcing it.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
Mm-hmm. That's word. And and interestingly enough, that's the first NAACP travel advisory to cover a whole state.
I mean, how is that possible? Them police in that state should be fired, all of them, because I mean, how does that sound? It's 2023, and they still trying to apply this to. I mean, man, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Because this is the culture of the police. I don't give a damn what the policy is, what the standards are, what the rules are. They have a culture of white supremacy that stems from the very beginning and stems back to what? The slave patrol.
Yeah. We got to come up with a plan to stop that, because that's where it starts at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's sadly, man.
Well, we'd like to think those days are gone, but much to our dismay, discomfort, judging from the recent incidents and experiences too many Black people, those days ain't going no damn where. Because there are still those who still believe Black people have no rights the authorities are bound to honor. Right? Just recently, 2 men were stopped by 2 police officers after saying hello to another man on the street. You don't say hi to strangers, the first officer said. Not in this neighborhood, said the second officer. The officers also cursed, made fun, and threatened the 2 men. Since when did greeting someone require police intervention? Yeah, don't get it mixed. This is not an aberration. Okay? This is not something that was rare. This is generally the attitude of those police officers who are determined Blacks have no rights they are bound to honor.
And they go and get them badges and them jobs to try to enforce their racist ethics.
That's right. This incident took place in Philadelphia. That's Pennsylvania, not Mississippi.
Wow.
This is intolerable and unacceptable.
Exactly.
The first thing in dealing with any injustice is recognizing it for what it is, injustice. This is beyond stop and frisk. This is stop and oppress. We will
stop and kill.
Yeah. We will not, cannot allow this to continue. We will not, cannot go back to some racist, nostalgic fantasy that was the good old days. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Where the music go?
Yeah, I got
Ooh, keep playing with the damn music. All right.
Yaga, yo, what's up? What's good? Misi, yo, should I? Hey, yo, Jardale, what's good? Vaughn, Sherry, hey, yo, that's what's good. Thanks for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? Your boy Pat, get ready, put it in. You know how it go. Yaga, hey, yo, true that. Track knowledge, this was good. Yeah.
What's he saying over there? Who's that? Jardea?
Yeah, Jardare. He's talking about why he live in Mexico.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know you live in Mexico neither, bro. And he said it's much safer for an African there.
Ain't that something?
I mean, hey,
you know?
I say bear arms and make you safe anywhere. I don't be playing no games. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? You gotta pray.
Ninja trying to start something. WHGE 95.3 FM.
Brother Jordan, shout out.
All right, check it out. You know, all right, couple of quotes here. I know this one came from Sister Tracy. I don't know if she's in there or not.
Tracy, you in there?
Yeah, right.
Let me see.
Is she? Okay,
she ain't getting there yet. I will catch
it. Books and all forms of writing have always been objects of terror to those who seek to suppress the truth. And give you an idea of what's going on now, how they're trying to basically erase our history. Okay? If black children are old enough to experience racism, white children are old enough to learn about it. You know what I'm saying? Damn right. But what do we have? Just an example. The Alabama governor forces out black education official who provided training on structural racism. She called it woke, and she's not having that woke stuff going on in her schools. You know, ignorant racist hussy.
Did she get fired? Did she get eliminated out
no,
of the
this
school?
is the governor that did this now.
I mean, did anything happen to her for that?
Other than probably a couple of black people giving her the finger, no, because Alabama got enough white people that are going to keep her in office. Enough white racists down there. Alabama's director of early childhood education, she's out of a job. Okay, over the use of a teacher training book that the state's Republican governor denounced as teaching woke concepts due to language about inclusion and structural racism. Last thing they want to hear is that they're going to include some black people and that we need to take down structural racism. Barbara Cooper was forced out as director of the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education after Governor Kay Ivey voiced concerns about the book's distribution in state-run pre-kindergartens. If our children old enough to experience it, your children or white children are old enough to learn about it. All right? Gina Mayola.
How can you hide something like that?
They bound and determined. They bound and determined. Gina Mayola, a spokesperson for Governor Ivey, identified the book as the fourth version of the National Association of the Education of Young Children, developmentally appropriate practice book. The book has reportedly been removed from state classrooms. And that's what they're doing. They're banning books. Now, in some states where they can't ban the books, they close the library.
That's worse than going in the houses and setting the books on fire.
Yeah, that's worse than burning the books.
Yeah, that's worse than burning the books.
Yeah,
I mean,
because what do they want to do?
Wow.
They want to keep you in ignorance.
Of course.
Yeah. The education of Alabama's children is my top priority as governor, and there is absolutely no room to distract or take away from this mission. Let me be crystal clear. Woke concepts that have zero to do with proper education and that are divisive at the core have no place in Alabama classrooms at any age level, let alone with our youngest learners, said Alabama Governor Ivey. The governor's comments come at a time when conservative politicians are decrying so-called woke teachings, with schools sometimes at the center of debates over diversity training and parental rights.
How is it called woke teachings? It's history.
Yeah.
Period. And they try to change the name of it so they can put it out. Like black people is basically trying to wake people up. No, it's history.
Right.
And it's your history.
And you need to be woke.
Right. And your kids okay, once they see that their history was like that, their kids may not feel like they feel. They may feel as though they feel bad for the people. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what they don't want.
That's what they don't want. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they got a hold on us, man. We gotta stand up on our own, make our own nation, really get our own nation together, man.
Yeah.
For it's on. Next thing you know, you're gonna turn around and you're gonna see slavery.
See, this is what they want
all over again, like wide in the open.
Always remember, history repeats itself. Okay, so what they want to do is they want people to forget what happened in recent history with our people doing enslavement and Jim Crow.
That wasn't long ago either, bro.
No,
that was like what 1950s.
But look how ignorant so many people are to what went on during slavery. I mean, you have this lost cause doctrine pushed by the Daughters of Confederacy. Okay, that look what they called the Civil War. They called the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression, as if they were being oppressed by those in the North who fought against their succeeding from the country and fought against their determination to maintain slavery. So what they want people to think that, well, slavery wasn't that bad. You actually have educators, okay, superintendents and administrators that are afraid to say slavery was bad. Well, it might not have been, and the happy darky on the plantation, they push this narrative.
And that's crazy.
To make it seem as though slavery is acceptable. Okay? This is what they do. This is how they damage the education. This is how they push the indoctrination. And I'll tell you something, and I often say this.
What?
As bad as you think slavery was, it was a hell of a lot worse.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
No one wants to be in that predicament.
Hell no.
Especially if you put it on the Swiss shoes.
Yeah, the last thing they want to do.
Exactly.
You see, this is another part of their fear.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, this is another part of their fear. They fear that if black people get empowered, we're going to treat them the way they treated us.
And we don't need to be empowered to treat you like you treat us right now. We can just go hard on y'all. Period. I mean, just that simple. And thank God it didn't get to that.
Right. But see, here's the thing. Okay, we are not immoral, heartless people, okay, that would dog a person out for no other reason than to economically exploit them. We were never that. Look, let me tell you something.
What?
All right? When the European invaded Africa, what did they do? They changed your culture, your religion, your God, your language, everything.
Right, because it's a takeover.
Right.
Right.
When the Moors from Africa took over Southern Europe, they didn't enslave people. Okay? They let you keep your religion, your language, and your culture. And not only that, but they civilized you and educated Europeans. Educated them. They taught them to bathe. They taught them how to eat meals. They taught them not to let animals sleep in the house. They taught them not to throw feces out the window. Okay? And what did the European do when he came? Taught you how to be dirty. All right? Look, if public schools can keep children occupied throughout the day with sports after school and homework in the evening, the parents will have less than an hour a day with their children. And the family's influence over them could be broken. That's their plan. This has been their plan since industrialization in America, when they started establishing education in schools. And what is the purpose of industrial education? To fill the young of the species with knowledge and awaken their intelligence? No, nothing could be further from the truth. The aim is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same safe level to breed and train a standardized citizenry to put down dissent and originality.
Right.
And they're not just doing this to black people. They want to do this to all what they consider the lower classes or golem sheep. That is its aim in the United States. And it should be the aim everywhere else where the white man is. We are who are engaged in the sacred cause of education are entitled to look upon all parents as having given hostages to our cause. Their children. Education should aim at destroying free will so that after pupils are thus schooled, they will be incapable throughout the rest of their lives of thinking or acting otherwise than as their school masters have wished. Okay, this is the crap that they're doing to our children, and it was planned from the beginning of industrialization when they knew they didn't want people smart enough to think or reason. They just wanted them smart enough to run the machine.
Right. And that's why we have to teach our own kids, and we have to educate our own, because they're not going to do it. They're not going to tell them the truth.
No.
So,
no.
We already know what we got to do. We have to stand up as, I have to take care of your kids. You have to take care of her kids. She has to take care of his kids. Mm-hmm. We have to network our teachings and our love. Mm-hmm. We don't do that no more. Mm-hmm. We used to network our love. Yo, can I borrow some sugar? You guys salt? Can I borrow some bread? We used to do that in our community. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, I heard that.
You know, it's like I ask you for something, you talk about me now. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's different. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We have to go back to the love in our community, which has been torn apart. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed, brother. Because our generation was the last generation to be raised in the village, and it takes a village.
That's right,
to raise a child. WHGE 95.3 FM. Nsoromma, waxing nostalgically.
Yo, what's good? Vet, what's happening? Ain't nothing been doing what I do. You know what I'm saying? Kiana, what's happening? Yo, Tracy, I see you here. Yo, Yo, I've been doing real good. You know what I'm saying? I ain't making no noise. That's it. You know, Putin waking them up to us, you know what I'm saying? Putin letting the rest of the world know we gods. You know what I'm saying? America been fooling everybody with that.
Yes, indeed. My city.
That's right.
By Nsoromma. WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Mr. Gibbs.
Nsoromma in the building.
All right. Now, what I'm about to read you is another quote that I got from Sister Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
And what I'm about to read to you will relate to what we're going to cover next.
All right.
The study of epigenetics has found that trauma can be passed between generations epigenetically.
DNA.
Which means that trauma experienced by an ancestor might affect the way your genes are expressed, impacting your health and behaviors. Mm-hmm. We were forced to stand by and not react when someone was tortured, beaten with a whip, for example. We couldn't react when one of our men, women, or children were raped. We couldn't fight back when our children were ripped from our arms to be sold. We could do nothing when our babies were stolen from us to be used as alligator bait. Subsequently, we are genetically conditioned to be passive, even when being murdered. Damn.
You know, listen. Even a mice will fight back if it's cornered, just to get out, just to get away. Come on, man.
Yeah.
We have to do better as warriors.
Yeah, I mean, we do. And the reason I bring that up is Jordan Neely. Okay?
Jordan
Neely.
Okay.
That's the young brother that was murdered on the subway in New York City.
Okay.
And he was murdered.
Sad.
Okay? And here's the crazy thing. Okay? The identity of the vigilante subway passenger who placed a black man in a deadly chokehold earlier this week is being protected by law enforcement despite officials ruling the death as a homicide.
Now, this is my thing in that situation. It was all the people standing around, and didn't no one go and bust this cop upside his head.
It wasn't a cop.
Oh, it wasn't a cop?
No, it wasn't a cop.
That's even worse.
No.
It was just a regular citizen.
It was a Marine, a white Marine, right?
Oh, well,
that
he
came
considered
up.
a cop.
Okay, well,
He considered a cop.
no, he ain't no goddamn cop.
But, yo,
He ain't got no authority.
He can call Sergeant Frankie Buggy Baggy, get me out.
I don't care if he's self-deputized.
Did you hear me? He can call Sergeant Frankie Buggy, get me out.
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you now.
Upper.
Let me tell you. All right.
Okay.
The man that killed him,
hold on. Did the Marine get killed or the guy got killed?
the young black man got killed.
The young black man got killed by the Marine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And the mainstream,
Right.
the mayonnaise brigade, the envelope people, okay, are rallying around the subway vigilante and calling him a good Samaritan and a hero. So here's what happened, okay? The young man who was a Michael Jackson impersonator,
Right.
often got on the subway and did his Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Like everybody do.
Yeah. Well, he was having an episode. He was dealing with some mental health issues.
Okay.
Okay. And he was also dealing with the trauma of being homeless, hungry, and thirsty.
Right.
And he stated as much.
Right.
And instead of him getting help,
he got killed.
This white dude snuck up behind him, this Marine, and put him in a deadly chokehold, and two other white people held him down while this bastard choked the life out of that boy, out of that young man.
What?
Choked the life out of him, and the press is not telling who he is, and neither are the officials in New York City. And it gets worse than that. It's worse than that. It's worse than them just not telling who this bastard was that killed that young man.
That's ignorant.
All right? Let me tell you about the sorry-ass mayor, Eric Adams.
Where is the 300 black people that's going down there in front of the building that's,
Oh, there were some protests and prayer.
That grabbed the person up. They need to grab the person up. I mean, you need to respond.
Okay. And why didn't they respond? Because if you study epigenetics and find out trauma has passed down and frozen people in their place.
Right.
Some of us have broken free of that, but not all of us and not enough of us.
Right.
Okay. Now, first let's get with the governor of New York. With this sorry huzzy said, Governor Kathy Hochul, who weighed in. I guess that's how you pronounce her name. And look how slick she was. People who are homeless in our subways, many of them in the throes of mental health episodes. And that's what I believe were some of the factors involved here. There are consequences for behavior, she said.
Wow, and then she ain't say nothing about help.
No.
Getting the young man help.
Right.
Help never comes up for situations like that. Mm-hmm. And why we put them in positions. Mm-hmm. And they talk about how they going to help people, and how they going to help this and help that.
Yeah,
they're just liars.
She come out with there's consequences for behavior.
Right.
And what does that state?
In her mind.
And the mayor, a black man, he is apparently refusing to say whether an unarmed black man who was killed after being placed in a protracted chokehold by a vigilante passenger on a subway train was murdered, despite medical examiners ruling that his death was a homicide. You know what this sorry son of a bitch said? He said, well, we can't, it's irresponsible as murder, it's irresponsible for those referring to the death of Jordan Neely as murder. And jumping to conclusions, even though that conclusion had already been definitely reached by medical officials. And there's a video that shows this bastard choking this boy out while two other people held him down. The cops took him and then released him like everything was everything. If y'all stand by in New York, look, if something like that happened to me, I want y'all to tear stuff up.
Right, man. That's crazy.
Oh, but what do they do? Now, let me
That's crazy, man.
Let me say
They out in front of all of their houses that was involved.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I like, it's different warriors right now. You know what I'm saying? They shooting each other over dumb stuff. And when it's things that's really mattering and things that really have changed the situation, when you supposed to come together and do, they're not doing it, man.
No, because they wouldn't bust a grape, all right, on the soft side. Let me tell you something, all right? Now, I had mentioned this during the Black Awareness meeting, okay, the Black Awareness Movement meeting, that when Jerry Falwell died, I badmouthed him. When, what's his name, Rush Limbaugh, the
white guy, bro.
Yeah, the Klansman of radio.
Okay,
when after he died, I put out there, well,
he died.
He died. Thank God.
Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, thank God. When he died, he was a drug addict. You ain't give a damn about him dying, a racist bastard and a drug addict that sent his secretary out to get some drugs. And people say, well, you don't speak ill of the dead. That's not right, okay? Okay. And these same people, okay, what did law enforcement do in New York? They they release this information about Jordan Neely, who was killed. And I'm going to tell you what they said so that you know the character of these racist bastards. They said that he had numerous arrests on his record, including drugs, disorderly conduct, and fare beating, meaning he jumped over the turnstile. And that he had been living on the streets with a recorded history of mental illness. At the time of his death, he had a warrant out for his arrest in November of 2021 case, where he was accused of assaulting a 67-year-old woman in the East Village. That's what they put out there about this young man that was murdered, as if this justifies him being killed.
They always put out all negativity things about you, and to make it seem like, okay, he should have been addicted. He should have been killed.
He should have been killed.
No, man. I just be so frustrated with that kind of stuff. I really don't have words, and it's just saddening, man. It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Because like I said, they do this stuff to justify him being murdered. Okay. Not only does the guy that put him in the chokehold, the Marine, all right, if I was a Marine, I'd find him and kick his ass and drag him down to the police station or whatever.
A Marine is supposed to know that, but he's still on kill mode.
He's still on kill mode, and he's still on racism mode.
Right, racist kill mode.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So
not only should he be arrested, but the two that held him down,
all three involved should be charged.
That's right.
Period.
It was a murder. It was a murder.
I ain't nothing else that you could say about it. The man's dead, and he did it, and you held him down. All of you are getting charged.
That's right.
And the charges should be conspiracy, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Conspiracy to murder.
Right. Conspiracy to murder. Yeah. And murder. He get the murder charge.
You get
conspiracy to
That's
murder.
Right. Because he participated in
where's
murder.
the judge at? Where's the governor at?
Because guess what?
Apply this.
Guess what? If there had been three black men holding down a white boy, we wouldn't be talking about their identity, because they'd be dead and we would know who the hell they are.
That's the injustice. That's where it all lies. And they got gangs in the police force that say, "Oh, you got to kill somebody to be when you're a Marine, you can come out and then try to get in law enforcement, but you got to kill somebody so we can know that you for real about." Come on, man.
And like I said, you know damn well, if this had been three black men, right? Like we said, Okay, they wouldn't have made it to the police
Right,
station.
they'd have all been dead.
They would have all been
Come on,
dead.
man.
It would have been white people on that subway screaming and hollering and crying,
Until
and
they
white
start
women
feeling the
running
pain,
around.
man, they ain't
Excuse me,
never
white
gonna
women would have been on there running around, crying and hollering about how dangerous it is in
Right.
New York City for white people. You can go to hell. It's dangerous in America for black people. I'm going back to Africa. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye.
You going back to Africa, bro? Hey, yo, who going back to Africa with Pat? We doing a petition right now. We getting the plane set up. Who going back and want to visit? Hit us up. Let us know. Don't be scared.
No, don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Get the hell up out of here. That's what it is.
Wow. Chase, what you say? Black Awakening Movement meeting.
Right.
Yo, you, Jared, he said, me, I'm going to Jordan. I'm going back. I want to go. Okay. Tracy, yo, what up, Gary? Ain't nothing to do what I do, y'all. Y'all got.
All right. Porch Lights by Patrice Gibbs. You know, some of us don't want to go. Some of us feel no connection to Africa. Because I was raised by a Pan-Africanist, so I feel the connection. I was raised to feel the connection. You don't feel a connection to Africa? All right. Let me tell you why I do. Now, I got a few reasons why.
Okay.
I unequivocally feel connected to my African roots.
Okay.
First of all, because Black history simply doesn't begin in America.
Right.
Right?
That's definitely true.
Nsoromma, the Mali Empire, the Great Zimbabwe, there's a wealth of culture and advancement that was done by our people whose blood runs through me. So why would I distance myself from them? And after all, the language, culture, custom, spirituality, and more that was stripped away from our ancestors, I'm holding on tight onto whatever connection I can rekindle through studying, visits to Africa, and mentally connecting with my ancestors' spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Because embracing my African lineage doesn't devalue the power of my African American roots. Okay? I understand the power of our roots here in the culture that we as Africans in America develop. Yeah, I've never felt like I had to choose between my African Americanness or my Africanness. Neither trumps the other. Both are equally dope. In fact, to me, they are exquisitely entwined. I couldn't be more elated to be an African in America. Okay? But I got to get the hell out of here. Because distancing myself from my African ancestry is legit hurtful to my ancestors. I don't want to find myself standing before the ancestors and they look me up and down and say, how could you? That's why I ain't got no snow bunny. Because in the grand scheme of history, we weren't in Africa that long ago. Okay? You know, when during the early days that we were here, like the early 1800s, okay,
Right.
our people were not afraid to say we're African. And you can tell that by the way they named their institutions. Case in point, the first colored African Methodist Church. What was in there? African. They were not afraid. Another reason, because in the grand scheme of history, I already said that, okay? Because these roots are mine. And I'm claiming my African roots. Reparations, if we get them, because we got them coming. And all the history that was deliberately kept away from my ancestors and me is mine for me to keep. And like Garvey teaches us, what is a tree without its roots? Cliche, I know. But seriously, there's so much to be said about having a connection to your ancestry. For starters, you'll be linked with those who share it. And you'll ideally look out for each other. Because ancestral energy is real. And I say this often. Every night before I go to bed, I ask the ancestors for guidance. And every morning they charge me to sound the alarm. That's why we do what we do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Black American culture is not a random thing with no direction. Our ties to the continent are clear if you know what to look for. We're not some motley crew with no ancestral memory. We are a displaced African tribe, and it's time we started looking at it that way. And like I always tell you, at that time, on the money. Destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority.
Who treat you as an option.
WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye.
Yaga. Yo, thanks for tuning in. Yo, time be like, right when we start doing our thing, you know what I'm saying? Thanks, Tracy, you know what I'm saying? Gay, Jardelle, yo, God, you know, Carmela, what's up? I see you tuned in. Yo, you just missed us next Saturday, 11 to 12, you know what I'm saying? Open Eye Radio, it's show. Hey, yo, Pat, what you got to say, baby?
You know what I got to say. The world was a much better place. Yes. Global African supremacy, because the world was a much better place when the black man ruled. No doubt.
Streaming all platforms, you dig? Yana.
All right.